Third, up by 18. Nikola Jokic finds Cam Johnson. Step back three. Got it. Denver wins this one. 125-113, and we are headed back to Minnesota for Game 6 on Thursday night. Nikola Jokic, 27 points, 12 rebounds, 16 assists, 2 blocks as part of his triple-double. Jamal Murray, 24 points in this effort. Spencer Jones, also 20 points. He had the 3-ball working as the Nuggets roll to the win here in Game 5. We now welcome in CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez. And John, the Nuggets are still alive. Just when they were on the brink of elimination, they've made it a series again. What was your reaction to the convincing fashion in which Denver won this one?
Yeah, this is kind of the version of the Nuggets that we've been waiting for this entire series. And certainly, at home, Game 5, can't lose another one. And then the Wolves don't have Anthony Edwards and, of course, Dante DiVincenzo, who's out not just for this postseason, but for probably all of next year with an Achilles. And you wanted to see the Nuggets really respond to that. And they certainly did tonight. Nikola Jokic, he put up some pretty good counting stats earlier in the series, but Rudy Gobert previously had defended him really well. Not tonight. Joker goes for a 27-point triple-double, had a bunch of points in the paint, really announced to Rudy Gobert, yeah, you got the better of me in some portion of this series, but not tonight, and maybe not moving forward. Jamal Murray played really well. Those two guys combined, they really needed to have a big game, and they did. And I thought their playmaking especially was remarkable. They had 23 assists. The Wolves, the entire team, only had 26 assists, and you'd kind of expect that when the Wolves lost not only 2 of their 5 starters, but 2 of their 5 best ball handlers and playmakers. And then on top of that, earlier in the series, Jaden McDaniels had said, well, those guys don't play defense. Well, tonight they played some defense, and then on top of the Wolves not having their 2 best ball handlers, they turned the ball over, the Wolves did, 25 times, which led to 35 points. So just at both ends of the floor, a really good answer for the Nuggets.
You kind of talked about this earlier. We did see a much better version of Nikola Jokic in this game offensively. He started the game kind of pedestrian, didn't look like he was going to be quite as polished as we know he can be, and then he goes all the way and gets that triple-double, as we mentioned, a way more efficient outing for him in this series. What impact do you think that a night like this from him will have on Denver's collective psyche as they enter Game 6?
Yeah, I think it just for Joker, you saw what happened at the end of the last game in Minnesota where he runs up on Jaden McDaniels, and part of that I think was Joker not being happy with Jaden McDaniels scoring the ball and breaking the unwritten rules of basketball. And part of it was I think Joker was trying to get himself and his team going, right? Light a little fire under him, and he certainly did that. And this was sort of a reminder tonight, not just for the Nuggets, but for the Wolves, for Rudy Gobert, for all of us, that Joker he's not going to win the MVP most likely, but he's probably, at least for my money, still the best player in the world. He's so capable of influencing a game in so many different ways, and he's so hard to slow down. And Rudy Gobert is a phenomenal defender, and he's done a really good job earlier in the series. But tonight, he had no answer for how to stop Nikola Jokic, and it really felt like Jokic came into this game deciding, I'm going to send a message to everybody tonight, including myself, that what you saw earlier in the series is not what you're getting tonight, and maybe not what you're getting moving forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that kind of scuffle there at the end of Game 4. I wondered going into this one how much that would play a factor for Jokic, and it seems like maybe that did light a little bit of a fire underneath him. Now, when it goes to Minnesota, the T-Wolves are playing this game. This is their first full game of the series without injured stars Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo, as you mentioned earlier. Now, in their absence, 6 T-Wolves were in double figures, and that includes Ayo Dosunmu, who came off the bench and had 18 points. But Rudy Gobert, he was held to just 3 points. So certainly the Nuggets controlled him in the paint. What did you think of Minnesota's offense in this one?
What we kind of expected, right? That it was going to be a little bit of a struggle. They got some good efforts from people. Julius Randle, we thought that he would need to step up. He did. He went for 27 points tonight. And then you mentioned Ayo Dosunmu, who's coming off of a career high in the last playoff game. But tonight, yes, 18 points is great. It's not enough, though, right? In the starting lineup, Jaden McDaniels was the only other guy who went for double digits, and he only had 13. Then you mentioned Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert is not an offensive force. He's not a scoring threat. They had to put Mike Conley, dust him off, put him into the starting lineup. He played limited minutes. and only scored 4 points. So if you were a Wolves fan, what you're worried about was, where's the offense going to come from when you lose not only Anthony Edwards, but also Dante DiVincenzo, because they were already kind of an offensively challenged team. That's the reason why they went out and got Ayo Dosunmu at the trade deadline. And tonight, that's absolutely what happened, where they had some trouble really scoring the ball. Yes, the score kind of tightened up in the fourth quarter, but the Wolves weren't really in this in the second half. It's kind of a little bit of smoke and mirrors on this thing. And it's not just the scoring, right? Moving forward for game 6, they've got to figure out how to add some scoring, but also some playmaking. Again, they had, as a team, almost as many, just barely more assists than Joker and Murray had as a two-man game. And then the turnovers. I mean, they really have to clean that up. That playmaking and the ball handling, it's got to come from somewhere. And tonight, that was a real problem.
Yeah. So now we head back to Minnesota for game 6 on Thursday. And if you're the Timberwolves, I got to ask you, John, how are you feeling about yourselves right now with the chance to possibly win one of the next 2 games? How are you feeling in this moment if you're the T-Wolves?
Well, you're still the favorites on paper, right? Because you only have to win 1 and the other guys have to win 2. But how are you feeling? I'm feeling nervous, right? Because you lost Anthony Edwards. He's not going to play in game 6 for sure. Most likely not going to play in this series. And you don't have Dante DiVincenzo. So you're down 2 of your 5 starters. And I thought, got handled pretty convincingly by the Nuggets. I mean, the Nuggets, I think we forget, because the last 3 games before tonight weren't great for them. That's the number 1 offense in the NBA. You got to keep up with that team, right? The Wolves are a good defensive team, 8th in defensive rating during the regular season, but this isn't the regular season anymore. And now all of a sudden you see some pressure, right? Where's the scoring coming from? Where's the ball handling coming from? Can we clean up those turnovers? Can we slow the Nuggets down enough? Can Rudy Gobert really look like the Rudy Gobert from earlier in the series when he was playing better defense against Joker? Or is Joker going to assert his will? So yeah, you only need to win 1 game, but that 1 game, that last game, that's the tricky one.
It's always the tricky one when you're up 3 games. You got a chance to possibly close out the 4th. Always going to be a tricky one. We thank you again for all your insight from this matchup, John. A look at the Nuggets' last 4 playoff series when trailing 3-2. You see the first round exit against OKC last year. Before that, 2 wins in the West semis and the first round in 2020.
He was asked to assess his performance. He used 1 word, and it was average. And if we're being real about it, it's been much below his average, at least. We're talking about a guy who shoots 56% for his career, once had a season where he shot 63%, has never shot worse than 47% in a playoff series. And in this playoff series, he's shooting 39% overall, 18% from 3, 5 of 21 in fourth quarters. He was 0 of 6 the other night in the fourth quarter. And, it's not that it's been perfect around him. Aaron Gordon's hobbled, Peyton Watson's out, but you mentioned it, the Wolves are without their star now, Anthony Edwards. And if Nikola Jokic cannot get Denver back in the series and they go into the offseason after the first round, I think for the first time ever in his career, the microscope will kind of be pointed at him for his performance in this series.
Yeah, you mentioned all those numbers. In this series, Jokic is shooting 33% from the field when Rudy Gobert is the primary defender. So it is a Gobert problem. There was a melee at the very end of game 4. Jaden McDaniels made a layup after Denver had already quit playing, and Nikola Jokic chased him down. Julius Randle came in for the Wolves and got into it with the Joker. Jokic earned a $50,000 fine, Randle $35,000. So what bad blood should we expect to see tonight from these 2 teams that don't obviously like each other?
Yeah, that's kind of been the story of the series dating back to McDaniels, basically calling every individual defender on the Nuggets not good at their jobs on that end. But to me, when you think about Minnesota's long-term goals, they're very much hurt by Anthony Edwards being out. But the short-term goals, it's just bragging rights over a Nuggets team they don't necessarily like. McDaniels just kind of cap off this trash talk series for him. You called the Gobert numbers. Rudy Gobert very much cares about his legacy defensively, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. This could be the best defensive series of his career if he's able to finish it off. And then, Ayo Dosunmu is going to step up into a bigger role, as he did when Edwards went out in game 4, and he scored 43